It is 6 o'clock by my watch, and I will now call to order the August 26, 2013 meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. For everyone's notice, this meeting is being recorded. The sign-in sheet is going around the room, and if you could please sign in and pass it back up to the front, that would be great. First item, are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Okay, could you state your name for the record and then...
Sure. My name is Matthew Leber. I live at 25 Highland Avenue.
Spell your last name, please.
Leber.
Right. And what's your address?
25 Highland. There has been a lot of concern recently about whether there are wetlands in the Highland Avenue area, and on both sides. And we live on the north side of Highland Avenue. And I have some pictures here. I have a set for each of you. I'd like to share with you of the areas behind our homes on Highland Avenue. And if
Thank you.
I do have a movie of running water, which is one of the things that somebody, if somebody would like to care to make a copy of this and then share it with others. And I think it's important to realize that there, when Route 9 Route 10 has two swales that come along Highland Avenue, one on either side, and they go under the highway. There are conduits under the highway to let the water come down from the hills towards the Manhattan River. And that is exactly what is behind our house. And these are pictures taken 8 years apart. The lighter ones are in 1995, and then the later ones in 2013. And the movie, we can look at the metadata and see, I think it was 96. There is water back there. There is a continual water back there. I think that it's something that the Conservation Commission needs to be aware of as we go forward, looking at the highway business district plans that have been presented to the planning board. That the wetlands here need to be taken into consideration. And as I said, I do have the movie there that does show moving water, and also then I pan around at the end and show the back of my house there to show exactly where it is. So that's basically what I wanted to make you aware of. I think it's a really important issue. It is not only the wetlands, it's also an animal corridor. That is really important because that is disappearing so rapidly. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I actually ask a follow-up question regarding the photos
Sure.
before we move on? These were just behind your house, or in general?
In general, that back
whole
area,
Okay.
yes.
On the north side or of Highland Ave, kind of?
That's it's all on the north side, correct.
Okay. You said 25. Okay. Thank you very much. Back discussion. Next agenda.
Yeah, we can. In my putting the movie on my laptop on this, it's just basically
Flows
whatever
from
was.
drainage interflows conveyed from and beneath Route 10 through two culverts directed onto either side of Highland Ave, as well as the value of the area as a wildlife corridor and potential concerns relative to wetlands jurisdiction and the business district. That's my take.
Yeah.
All right, we will now move on to a continuation of the public hearing for a notice of intent filed by Cascoma Conservation Trust, DEP file number 151275, for the construction of hiking trails and associated features from Ranch Ave to the Manhan River. Does anyone come to the table, please?
I'm here with Garrett Stover.
Oh, he was walking.
You want to spoke up here?
Sure, please, pull your chairs up.
And for the meeting records,
Pete Westover.
Pete Westover, thank you.
Conservation books.
Okay.
So, there was a site visit last Monday.
So August 19th at 5:15.
Okay. I was not there. Could someone give a recap, summary? We saw.
We walked the trail.
I think different members were there at different times. As we started out, we looked at the area where some of the bench cuts are proposed and, checked those areas out. Got down to the ravine area where there's a bridge crossing proposed and looked at how that would be constructed generally, that kind of thing. And then continue down towards the Tennessee Gas Pipeline corridor. That's where I turned around.
Yeah, before that, we walked up the embankment where the stairs would be going.
Oh, yeah.
And it's quite a bit of stairs that need to go in there.
Some
These are
series of elevation changes.
The bench steps are actual stairs.
I believe there are actual stairs, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the idea is that they'd be perched on these diamond piers, so there's just a couple of points of contact.
Yeah, there's a few platforms that'll be intersecting it. And then from there, we continued up. There were a few switchbacks going up the gas line area. We didn't completely walk all the switchbacks, but I think there were 3 of them, I believe, going in. And then went down through the woods, and then the viewing platform was after that, I believe, before we got to that real heavy brush area.
Right, the trail fork, so the one fork
Yeah,
goes down
yeah,
to the
the one
viewing
fork.
platform, the other cuts across the field and
Yeah.
ends up near the river.
Yeah, and that seemed all pretty straightforward. Nothing really there.
In terms of the vegetation down there, especially in the floodplain area, what is it? How dense is it? What's the composition? Is it a lot of non-native invasive species? Is
Oh,
it-
yeah.
There's a lot of native.
Yeah.
Like, what's the worst?
Well, you name 6, they're all there. Japanese barberry, multiflora rose, they're all there.
Okay.
Plenty of burn bush.
There are a few native plants starting to stick their heads up.
Hanging on. Is there, just as a side note, because we've had conversations about this in the past, is there any Japanese stiltgrass on the parcel that you know of?
I looked by the river and I did not see it, but that
Okay.
doesn't mean it's not there.
Right.
It's,
There are problems
Pretty
upstream and downstream, so,
because it's downstream from there for sure.
and it's upstream for sure, too.
And it's upstream.
So,
That probably is there.
Yeah, it's just, we didn't get that close to the water.
okay.
Didn't bring machete.
Okay. Is there a concern relative to the work in this more steeper areas about erosion and sedimentation controls?
I had one concern on the first series of bench cuts. It was going to wrap around the hillside, and it gets really, really steep. And I don't think it'd be possible to have something that would be sustainable. And we discussed adding a bog bridge, kind of aiming it straight across, get down low enough with a bench cut, and then use a bog bridge to cross. It's a small ravine.
That was probably the worst area that we saw.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest concerned area
Yeah.
first.
It's right near the beginning of the
It's
trail.
right, yeah,
It is-
right off
it
of the
is
road,
steep.
so it's easy to go back and visit, but, and it was originally going down into the ravine, which in the spring may actually flow water, so I thought a bog bridge would be.
Yeah, it may, there's no evidence of overland flow, but you could.
Yeah. So I think the original proposal was to follow, with the bench cut, follow topography kind of to the right and up into a little sub-channel and then back out again and around. I think we were talking about people might cut the corner, yeah.
Yeah.
What I think would make sense from our point of view is to do the stairs going down and then the stairs going back up. The one thing that in place of those 2 bench cuts.
Okay, so instead of benching up and back over, just do stairs down, stairs up.
Right. The one thing I'd question is the bog bridge, because, again, I've never seen water flowing down any of those smaller...
And you've been out there early spring and, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been out there, so.
It's so silty there that I think even up above there, water is just sinking down below the ground level,
Yeah.
flowing underground.
Okay.
So just
I
for the sake
don't
of
think,
see.
I don't think the bog bridge would be a huge item if it's this.
If after the
stairs are
fact,
gonna be the big
yeah,
item.
after the fact, you could do a bog bridge. And if you're up for doing the stairs, I think that would be the best way to go about that area.
It'd make us feel more comfortable.
Okay, excellent.
All right, are there any other questions from the commission? So administratively, I did get the correspondence about someone having spoken with Laura Glorioso at National
Yeah.
Heritage, which is great. Administratively, we cannot close the hearing.
No, not,
Because we haven't heard from Natural Heritage.
Okay.
Natural Heritage has jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act. And they have 30 days from their receipt of the NOI to comment. And they received it by hand delivery on August 6th, I believe is the, I have to guess.
yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
So that means roughly, how many days in August?
Yeah,
All of them.
they have until September. They have until before our next meeting in September.
Okay.
If there are no further questions from the commission at this point, I will ask if there's anyone here tonight who has any questions regarding the project. No? Okay. We have some fairly standard conditions that we can talk about some general conditions. And I think that's really pretty much all we'll be dealing with. Unless, if anyone has anything specific in mind, the ones that...
It's gonna be a nice trail when it's done, it's a nice area.
Beautiful, beautiful hiking area.
Well, in general, while there's a lot of paper here, it's a lot of more standard boilerplate covering interests. The ones that generally require action are pre-construction notifications, minimum 48 hours, providing a series of site contacts with emergency numbers if there's ever, a washout of some sort or any reason that we would need to contact you. Standard condition of posting the file number sign nearest right of way, which would be the end of Ranch Avenue. That way everyone knows there's been a permit. Keeping a copy of the permit on site during construction, so that if it's questioned, it's there. Well, obviously, before you start working, reporting the order. And then it's fairly well documented, so I think I would consider accepting what's been provided for the file already, but pre-construction, documenting pre-construction conditions so that there's little question as to whether or not a change has occurred as a result of the activities. So fairly standard. Does anyone else have anything they want to add? Okay, so with that, we can have the paperwork ready to go for our next meeting once we hear from Natural Heritage, and we can sign off on it.
What's the meeting date?
September 9th.
Right.
So we need a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion that we continue this till September 9th.
I'll second the motion.
Those in favor?
Right.
So moved. So,
Thanks very much.
and if Natural Heritage has something to say, you can show up and get it by hand or not. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
Has everyone signed into the meeting using the sign-in sheet here? Anyone not signed in? Okay, thank you.
Okay, next on the item on the agenda is a request for partial certificate of compliance from Treehouse Development, lots 14, 15, 31, and 38. Hello. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Ann Martin with LAC Environmental. It's probably been a year and a half maybe since I actually came in. We've been mailing a lot of the requests for certificate of compliance, but we kind of thought LEC Environmental. We thought since it had been a while since we've been here, I didn't know whether they were going to change over a commissioner. We're getting close to the end, I think. I thought we might come in and kind of refamiliarize you guys with what's going on. I made, this is a section of the project plan. Are you guys familiar with the treehouse? Everybody?
Yeah,
Actually, might have been
Pieces
here.
of it.
Right, pieces of it. This is a section of the plan that I had shown to you guys a couple of years ago when we came in to kind of really narrow the field to what are the remaining lots that are within the commission's jurisdiction and just clarify, primarily for the attorney, other lots were released, which lots were even within your jurisdiction. And so I just took the same plan and added a little color to kind of narrow the field for you as to where we are right now. And last year, there are 4 lots here highlighted in pink. Those 4 lots remain open on the order. If you issue the request that we filed for tonight, those 4 lots still remain open and will eventually need a certificate of compliance. The 2, lot 13 and 30, which are highlighted in yellow, the lot number is, those 2, you guys issued a certificate of compliance about a year ago for those 2. And then we're here tonight for the 4 that have the orange highlighter, which is lot 31, lots 14 and 15, and lot 38. So it's like this one, these 2, and the one down there. And so we included a request. The standard materials that we usually send to you has photographs, the as-built, certification letter from Heritage, and then the way we were doing it before, there's an attachment to the certificate that you guys issue that slowly the number of lots or that the remaining order is applicable to each time. We just take off the lot, so it's clear for anybody who's checking the chain of the title, and really for you guys and for me as it strung out over time, it's easy to see how many lots. And so those 4 that I highlighted, 10, 11, 29, and 37 are the ones that remain open. A house has been built on 37, but the site really isn't stable yet. Grass hasn't started to take, so we knew it was too early to come in and ask you for a certificate. So we're hoping before this winter, I'll file. Probably won't come see you, but we'll file the information to release 37. And then also in the package of materials that we gave to you, lot 29, which is the large kind of hammerhead lot, was purchased by Eliza and Jody, who live on lot 30, which we've already done a release on theirs. They bought that lot. So we're not filing a request for certificate, but we wanted to put you guys on notice that they purchased that lot, so they could still do whatever it is that they might want to do with it.
So they live at lot 30?
Yes. And I sent
And they
them...
may or may not build a house?
I have no idea what their intentions are at all. Darcy from Beacon, who represents the EFH Homes, who owns all this, just made me aware of it and said, what should we do? And I said, let's just let the commission know we're not in control of the lot anymore. They're in control of the lot. And Jody and Elizabeth, they got a copy of this letter. They were very appreciative. So they know we've put you guys on notice that. So what we're eventually trying to do is we're trying to back EF Homes or EH Homes responsibilities off the table, where eventually we will no longer be responsible for any of the lots. And so the easy way to satisfy all the attorneys was for me to write this letter to you guys, and so that you knew and everybody was kind of on notice that we don't own it anymore.
I'm satisfied with the documentation. Does anyone else have any questions?
That makes sense to me, I think.
I have a quick question about, have we has anyone been out here? Well, so I guess what are the requirements to be compliant? You have to have a established lawn, you have to delineate anything on the property.
Adhere to boundaries.
Yeah, there were, at one point, way back when we first produced this plan a year ago, a bunch of bounds went onto the lots that had the 50-foot no disturbance, and all of those bounds were installed, and so all of those have been installed. So it's really the as-built to ensure the house was built far enough away from the wetlands, and that the site's either stable with landscaping, with, beds and mulch, or seeded.
Correct me if I'm wrong, there was wasn't this location where there was a property where a property owner was clearing more area beyond his lot, and we needed to go back out and confirm there was a rock wall or a fence or something in his backyard?
Isn't that
a playground or something?
Closer up to...
I think that's, at the beginning of this road, at the beginning of Button Road, there's 7 single-family homes, they're larger house lots. This is in the back where the lots are smaller, some of the houses are attached.
So, but there's no need for us to go out and look at any of the delineations on these? I'm just wondering if the site visit is needed.
I'm not concerned with the documentation that was provided.
Okay. Just want to make sure we close all loops.
Further discussion? Any comments, questions, concerns? Okay. So with that, we are in position to act on the request for a partial certificate of compliance. We do have some paperwork prepared if someone wants some.
That's okay. Just we need to...
Parcel references, correct.
Let's see. On the second page. All right, I move that we issue a partial certificate of compliance for Lot 17, Lot 15, Lot 31, and Lot 38 of the Treehouse properties area.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So if folks would like to start signing.
Big fat marker today, so
It's really official.
it's awesome.
I would really copy it, it won't be
How many copies do you need? 2 copies. If we give you the original, we can...
You give me the original, I will put it in the hands of the site.
Just 2. One for us, one for T. Try to do it in the order we said. People listening.
What is the name of the main access road here? I've never been out here.
It's Button, Button Road. There's a large sign that says Easthampton Meadows. If you pull out of the park, you want to take Payson to Park, and you turn left, you'll take Park for maybe
Just past
4
Mike
miles. It's
Road.
just past the elementary school, it's right next to the elementary school.
I think I
It's
actually
easy to miss the entrance because it's very, other than the sign, you could just drive right past
I
it.
think I've been by it once.
That was where, behind there is where the pond sediments were spread out. Is that correct? From the National Water Pond dredging, I think. Pretty sure. You go in, you go all the way down to where the road tees, and you take a right, and then there's
I
that.
think it's kind of way over on the side of
Yeah.
like a city-owned parcel.
It is, but
Yeah.
I think this was the access.
Well, I think there might be a city-owned parcel that's to the, the school's to the left, but there might be city-owned ones to the right.
All right, so Jessica's making copies, and we'll be back in a minute.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you. You guys have made this process easy. It's not always, thank you, it's not always easy when there's one order and all the partials issued. So we appreciate the flexibility, and the attorneys are real particular about the way things are written, so I appreciate that from you guys. That makes my job easier.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Good night. All right, moving on. Moving on to enforcement orders. 37 South Street, enforcement order EO 2013-001. Mr. Dahl, Mr. Darnold.
Want to come up or?
If you'd like to come up, you can come up. If you don't,
Stand.
you can stay right where you are.
If we can discuss.
Okay. Comfortable? Well, so I will quickly recap that we have a site plan where 3 areas have been identified as areas 1, 2, and 3. Area 1 is more of an open field in the 200-foot riverfront area. We, at our last meeting, kind of came to resolution with regard to that area, that the boundaries, the limits of vegetation can be maintained through normal mowing practices, but that there shall be no ground disturbance, earthwork, things of that nature, because that is riverfront area, and anything like that would require subsequent permitting. Area 2 is an area adjacent to the pond, between the pond and the gravel driveway. So it's an unregulated dam. There had been vegetation clearing, vegetated wetland clearing around the pond. I believe to facilitate dam maintenance activities is what we determined. And then the third area is a portion of riverfront area where a gravel driveway and portion of a storage structure, is that the best way to describe it? 2 to 3 story building, depending on what side you're standing on, with a 2-car garage underneath, minus sewer and water, as electric with no sewer or water, within the riverfront area. And today's site visit, we talked about, with regard to Area 3, we talked about coming up with a mitigation plan for the Commission's review and approval to provide mitigation for the unpermitted work in riverfront area. And what we discussed was that those really are burning bushes on the aerial that show up. There's also a large tree of heaven. We talked about possibly removing those with an invasive species control plan and providing supplemental native plantings appropriate for the area, and possibly extending that depending on the square footage. Also removing the vehicle that's been parked there since this aerial was taken, at least. And a compliance monitoring program with minimum annual reporting. And I think the next area that we really didn't have time to talk about at the site visit, the way we talked about that portion of riverfront area in detail, was the area around the pond and dam and the impacted vegetated wetland. And that's, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we would also want to see a plan on how you plan to maintain the dam. I believe that the area was cleared to maintain the dam, but I think it was over-cleared, so they would have a nice preview, which is, I understand that. But I think for the maintenance plan of the dam, I would like to see how you are planning to access both the drain area on the dam and the overflow. And the limits of the, I don't know if you just need a mowing strip or a walking path down there. I don't think you need a full 8-foot wide roadway. And what that plan would entail, and part of that would be maintaining or letting that first 10 feet recover to back what it used to be, which is that first 10 feet is the delineated bordering vegetated wetlands.
I'd actually take it a step further in 2 different directions for discussion's sake.
Okay.
One is I'd like to see some BVW restoration, because I agree that I think we need to understand in plan view, for everyone's sake, the areas that absolutely have to be maintained for access for maintenance purposes. I agree that the area cleared goes beyond what needed to be maintained, the minimum necessary for maintenance, and I think that should be there should be a restoration plan for the BVW impact there. One of my concerns that started coming to me at the site visit today was that I don't want to see the enforcement process be used to bypass permitting. So I think if there's going to be a maintenance plan for the dam, then that should be permitted, because that's the normal route. I don't want to, I don't think it would be practical to do after the fact permitting for, you know, the other work that was done in Riverfront area. One, because of the time that's passed, and two, we're not going to require removal of the structure, so, you know, there wouldn't be a whole, I don't see a whole lot of benefit from that process, because it could potentially put it in the Commission's hands to deny compliance. And I don't think that's in anyone's best interest here. But in terms of dam maintenance, that's an ongoing concern for the property. And I understand it needs to be done, and it needs to be done in a certain way, but there are provisions in the regulations for permitting that sort of thing. So I think if there's going to be a dam maintenance plan, then that needs to be permitted. And that's...
Do you have a maintenance plan? Not the dam.
No, the dam is, as we all understand and I think agree, does not meet the criteria to be regulated by the state. Is that, I'm looking at our dam expert.
Well, without having looked at the details, it appears that the state has not chosen to regulate it. Whether that's because they
Don't know about it.
No, I
it.
think they do.
Did they?
Yeah, I think it's on the dam map.
Okay.
Doesn't get old.
Never.
So yes, then I guess the state had not chosen to regulate it, so it probably does not meet the definition of a dam. I guess adding to the
It
discussion.
meets the definition of a dam.
Well, the Office of Dam Safety.
The regulatory.
So I think we agree that it meets the Wetlands Protection Act definition of a dam, but not the Office of Dam Safety definition of a dam. Okay. So I guess I'm looking at three different things. There were impacts caused by the dam maintenance yet to be determined that may not have been acceptable to the commission, and potentially should be mitigated. There could be those things that maybe we'll look at and think that it is what it is now. Mitigation, there may not need to be mitigated. Grassed areas that could continue to be mowed or whatever. And then the third thing would be further maintenance that would need to happen to, to maintain and improve the dam. And I guess personally, I'm on the fence as to whether I feel like maintenance of things that are now currently disturbed and we agree as a commission can be left like that could be taken care of under enforcement action, but that further maintenance beyond, any removal of trees that are still there for dam maintenance would need to be permanent. Is that where you're coming from, or?
Yeah, I think we need to establish a mitigation plan for the BVW impacts at this location.
Yeah.
That needs to take into consideration long-term maintenance of the dam.
Yes, I agree.
But so stop it there, and one of the, I guess the specific example from the site visit was there's a large tree growing adjacent to a concrete structure. Is it?
Correct.
The
Yeah.
outlet? Was that the outlet?
Correct.
The primary outlet?
Primary outlet, yes.
That's not included in this discussion. That would be a maintenance or improvement above and beyond what is being done. So you're saying mitigate, and then maintain within boundaries that take into account that mitigation area?
Right. Mitigate, come up, as part of the enforcement process, come up with an operation and maintenance plan that is basically just
Adheres to the existing.
adheres to the existing disturbed area, and then if there's more, if there's maintenance items that are more like an improvement, it may need to be a permit.
But could that maintenance item be removed from the trees that they grow 10 years from now in that same way?
I think if there's maintenance of existing herbaceous vegetation, then I think that needs to be done on a regular schedule, because you start having bigger problems if you have, and it has been, portions of it have been maintained. And if you mow on an annual basis, it's going to,
Take care of itself.
yeah. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
It makes sense, I just don't,
So if there's anything above and beyond what happens.
I'll make a suggestion. Again, I think there's sort of two aspects going on. I think the enforcement order needs to be completed, and I think I'm coming up with mitigation plans, limits of mowing on the dam structure, letting the areas that were disturbed and that were a cause and effect for this enforcement order to take place. And that can be stipulated that no, the work will take place on the dam. And maintenance of a dam is actually under limited project status. It's not an automatic guaranteed. So in order for anything else to take place on the dam, a limited project application will need to be filed. And then that can be conditioned however the commission felt needed to be done.
Yep.
That's what
I think that's
satisfied.
where
I think we need to
we're
clean up this enforcement order to make that very comfortable, and what do we need to do that? And then the enforcement order came with a stipulation that no further work shall take place until a permit is issued until a permit is issued, and he can apply for either unlimited project status or normal NOI, whatever needs to take place.
okay. And that plan, that maintenance plan, then gets permitted, and then we enforce that? How does it go on? Do we have that access to go on site and review it at a
There's an open order of conditions.
annual
we do.
basis or something?
Oh, I thought you were
No,
mentioning.
okay.
So I think, so mitigation plans for for areas 2 and 3.
So we're looking at mitigation for the areas that were disturbed as a function of this enforcement order, so we would,
Yes.
I just want to clarify, I think I understand area 3, what you're looking for, and again, I'm looking for area 2 now by the pond. What do we need to provide the commission in that area with the understanding that future maintenance will be taking place under another future permit? I want to give the commission the plan that they need to satisfy this next section.
I don't think, one of the questions I don't think we've answered is what the BBW impact was. Did we answer
Yeah,
that
well, there
question?
was from the meeting last time, we talked about there was a 10-foot undisturbed vegetated buffer around the pond. No, I'm sorry, wrong.
No.
There is about a 10-foot span along the edge of the water to the BBW, along the undisturbed portions of the pond. Right, so from there you can calculate what the disturbed BBW would have been, but we haven't done that yet, or no one's done that yet.
So can you come up with a means of quantifying what
Yeah,
that impact
we
would
can
be?
take, extrapolate a 10-foot section around between the edge of water and to the approximate limits of disturbance,
Okay.
and stipulate that that was an estimated area of BBW disturbance. And then we'll have that number. I guess the question, what comes next? Obviously, I think if we follow your direction, there would be an area left open, subject to mowing down to the water where the emergency spillway is. There would be an access route over to the primary access, but the remainder portion, at least for that 10-foot section, would either be allowed to revegetate itself as it's doing now, or maybe supplemental plantings or seeding. So I
guess
I'll get a
that's the
number.
question. Is it coming back just itself though? Because it's grass. It's grass.
But it wasn't before.
Right, before it was actual native species.
We think.
We think.
So one concern I have, and I did see that you wanted to say something, but one concern that I have is that there's a section over here that was cleared, and by over here I mean
The access road kind of.
where the access road through the trees comes in more off the driveway. not that area, not the upland area in the trees itself, but the area down along the pond where there was vegetation cleared, that, I mean, is that part of the footprint of, that's not part of the footprint of the dam. So, restoring that.
That's something that's existed for years and years.
So there was woody vegetation
It's not
down.
his disturbance that causes that clearing, as I understand it.
Down by the pond?
Yeah. If we're thinking of the same place.
Well, hold up. I'm thinking of this area right here. Here's the driveway, here's the outlet structure, primary, emergency. And I understand that this is in close proximity to and or part of the dam embankment, and that there are reasons to keep that clear of woody vegetation. But again, it's this area over here where I'm wondering, is the water's going to get through to the emergency overflow, isn't it?
I mean,
From an engineering perspective, what's
all I'm going to say is that I have a very clear picture in my mind about what I would want a dam to look like,
and this is not it?
and I'm not bringing it up to anybody during these meetings.
Do we want to vegetate the dam?
I'd like the applicant to propose, what they would like the dam to look like and where they'd think mitigation should go and all that kind of stuff.
So with a long-term maintenance plan in mind,
Right.
come up with something.
It was an immediate response to the enforcement order with the idea that it would dovetail within a
Yes.
longer-term future permit for limited project status for long-term maintenance. So we'll come up with a mitigation plan to mitigate for this recent alteration. Realizing that if we want to do more alteration in the future, it would have to be transpired under a new permit.
Yes.
The problem I was having when it was vegetated, the muskrats would burrow under and come in under there, and in the periods of high water, that would all wash out on me. I don't think we want to invite the muskrats. If we mow it, we'll be fine. They won't come there. But once you start vegetating that whole thing back to scrub and whatever was there, they tend to want to burrow in there and live in there because they enter under the water to come up. When the high water comes in, when that water goes out, it swirls like this. It's like a toilet. That's what it is. And it washes everything out. And my experience is I had to go in there and put soil back in there periodically when it washed out. So this is why we cleaned it up. The animals don't burrow in there, and it keeps it a nice surface.
I think from a maintenance perspective, I would want to understand a schedule of maintenance activities as well. It doesn't need to be mowed and sheared down to turf. It's not a lawn. It may be part of or adjacent to a dam, but it's also a resource area. So those interests need to be considered and brought into balance with maintenance provisions. Anyone else? Our next meeting is September 9th. Is there a holiday in between? Are there any comments from the public? Questions, concerns? Okay. So, is that just now here? If possible, we'll get you out of here soon, sorry. I would want If there are materials to be submitted for the commission's consideration on the September 9th meeting agenda, if we could have them no later than end of business on Tuesday the 3rd, because the previous Monday's a holiday, that would be my comfort. So we could actually look at things before sitting down.
So it would have to be done this week.
Or by end of business on the 3rd.
I'm out of town. But
Or we could postpone to the 23rd meeting if that's not enough time.
Or if that doesn't happen, then we postpone it to the 23rd and we get things by the 16th at the latest.
yeah, I think it's probably better.
Okay, so we're going to receive materials no later than end of business Monday, September 16th. And we will put this on our agenda for the evening of Monday, September 23rd. Yes. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay. All right. I'll get left just in time. All right, moving on to general business. Next item on the agenda is 125 to 133 Northampton Street, possible filling of wetlands. First of all, is there anyone here for this?
Most of them.
I'm gonna go with yes, okay. Jay, you made a...
Walter and myself did a site visit. The issue with the site visit...
What was the date? It was the 21st? You said? Wednesday, the 21st? Check my
What's
calendar. Was it Wednesday?
Yes, 21st.
Yeah, that was Monday.
One of the issues is that the area of concern is not visible from any of the neighbors' properties, so you would have to go on Mr. Gall's property to actually see the wetland area that's being disturbed.
Which parcel were you trying to take a look at it from? I know you have an address, but I have those numbers here, I'm sorry. Just so I can get an idea of how far back you were able to get.
So the area is probably
The area is
here,
there.
but I think this is, it's kind of hidden. It's like
The tree line?
the tree hides the wetland, so I think we were at this parcel like 33
Okay.
or 32.
Okay.
Looking from there, but the homeowner took some pictures of the area. Those are the photos that I passed on. And by the time those photos were looked at, that area had been pretty much, it's described as the material was removed from the pond and then new material was added back into the pond area. I'm not exactly sure what the purpose of it was. It seems like he's leaving an indent there so that there is a pond left over.
So the homeowner took photos of the area, but they were not current.
Well, they're current, but they're taken from Mr. Gall's property. So
We can't really.
I don't know if we can use them if they're not taken from a public area or someone else's land who we had permission to go on.
Oh, is there anyone here tonight who wasn't at our previous meeting? So from, I'm gonna back up
But many of those
a step.
people were at the site visit.
So you understand that we don't have the authority, even if there's a violation or a potential violation, to trespass on private property. We need the property owner's permission. And I'm gonna write mine would do that. So we're somewhat limited. We have to be a little more resourceful in how we determine what was there and whether or not it was subject to our jurisdiction.
Can I ask a question just on that one, please, just so I'm sure? Could the property owner take a picture and submit that as long as he's not trespassing?
I don't know. That's a good question. I will try to find an answer to that. I'll probably call DEP tomorrow and ask that question.
Okay, because even the property on the north side of Highland Avenue that's behind our house, we're standing at our property line, standing in an inch of water.
But she's across the street.
I'm across the street. We're the ones that are they're developing. We're now starting to get a sinkhole in our backyard because of the rerouting of all of the water.
When was the water rerouted? Sorry, I don't want to digress too
Oh,
far.
it's in the last, what's happening with Highland Avenue at this point is the cumulative effect of all of this. They moved the stream, they tried to reroute the stream by CBS.
Okay,
That's one piece of the problem.
okay, that's downgrading. Okay,
So that water's been changed. When they changed the corner, they changed the Catherine Root Park. That stream is now finding its own way, just happens to be through yards and basements. You know, it's sort of, what's happened is the cumulative effect of all of what's been happening. It's not one isolated incident, I don't believe. You know, we had the post office put in, we had the industrial park put in, and we're a little bit downhill from all of that. So now all of the water's finding
okay.
newly found basements. There's now 3 neighbors that have to have sump pumps, and 1 is pending a sump pump.
So let's focus on the property.
Yeah, that's, my initial question was, is it, you're gonna find out whether it's legal for us to stand in our yard and take a picture of somebody
Your
else?
yard
No.
is fine.
If we can
Yeah.
use that as evidence for moving forward with possible enforcement, that's
Okay,
that's the question I will ask DEP tomorrow.
okay.
Because I know we can't, if we can view something from a public way, which in the previous discussion, the violations were observed from the bike path. And that is a public way, and we were able to document and move forward with that enforcement action. And that was issued, and then we had access, we were granted permission to access that private property. In this case, it's trickier because there's not a lot of, in that particular location, there's not a lot of aerial photography or GIS mapping through the state that clearly establishes Wetlands Protection Act jurisdiction. And then another complicating factor is if the land is or has been in the past 5 years in active agricultural use. And then does what has happened fall within an agricultural exemption? Is another thing. Agricultural activities are allowed to proceed provided they're normal maintenance and improvements of land in agricultural use.
Now, I was told that it was being used for agriculture, but I don't know the time frame. So does anyone know what time frame things were planted back there?
I haven't seen any agriculture.
There's never been any agriculture.
There's never been any agriculture.
The field has
There's
never been paid.
Never.
Livestock has never been, in the past 5 years, actually, I will say.
Okay,
Hay,
No.
grazing, okay.
25 years. It has not.
My understanding is that the area in question may have been constructed as a farm pond with a tile drain. I don't know.
There was corn, with Dan Hagan, there was corn on the next parcel over that particular parcel. There was
I'm sorry,
corn for years, not any of Mr. Ball's property. The next parcel
By Mill Street.
toward Mill Street.
The street, here's Highland.
No, there was over here. This was corn
Okay,
for
this is
years.
corn. Okay.
That was corn for years. He may have hay here at some point, and horses were kept here
Yeah.
at some point, but I don't remember maintenance in
Okay.
the back part.
So
Any
what's-
type of agricultural maintenance back there.
What's
You know,
been keeping the
that's right.
vegetation down?
Maybe he mows it.
Okay.
I'm just using.
Well, mowing isn't haying, mowing is mowing.
I mean, I don't ever
That
remember,
makes
maybe
sense.
somebody else's, I can't say it doesn't, I've never seen bales of hay back there. Let's put it
Okay.
that way.
Okay.
But I had a little more general question, and you did have a map that showed that as an open water on the DEP.
Yes, DEP wetlands has a circle that maps it as open water. The definition in the Wetlands Protection Act of a pond is of standing water, I believe 10,000 square feet or more, documented by some means in the past 10 years. So I don't have it with me. I'm not an expert at aerial photo interpretation. If it is a pond, it's borderline.
I mean, I didn't particularly personally talk to DEP, but others have talked to DEP, and they said we'd have to go to your local enforcement first. Are you saying that if you don't know, will you go to DEP and get an
I
answer?
will ask for DEP for advice.
Yeah, that's what I'm
on
saying.
how
I
to
mean, if we
proceed.
don't, because I guess what's concerning me, and this isn't even just on this parcel, we also have the south parcel that at least 2 members couldn't give these people here. I wasn't there that night, so I don't know what was observed from that one pond area, and I don't know what was observed on the other side, because I wasn't there. But I don't think anyone got an answer on what a wetlands is, or what a wetlands isn't. And I guess as someone that goes around the city, my question is, if someone has a pond or a partial pond, are you saying, is it your position that someone could fill it in? And whether the pictures were taken or not, I do believe, and this again is hearsay, I didn't hear what was said, but I do believe those neighbors observed, which is kind of direct, whether they have a picture or not, they did observe the pond being dug out, the pond being filled back, and I believe it was re-dug out the evening of your last conservation meeting, which maybe, I don't remember exactly what was said. But.
All right, well, just briefly, the definition of a pond is 10,000 square feet, surface area. Documented, observed, recorded in the previous 10 years. It can be man-made. Historically, I'm sure this was agricultural land. It doesn't sound like this portion of the property. Just because a portion of a property is used for agricultural purposes doesn't mean that the whole property is then considered agriculturally exempt. It's just that footprint. So if this area has not been used for agricultural purposes in the past 5 years, then it is not, even if it had been, agricultural exemptions don't apply and changes need to be permitted. If it were agriculturally exempt and that modification were not for agricultural purposes, it would still not be exempt. Kind of, one more thing, sorry. So even if an area of standing water is not 10,000 square feet, if it meets the criteria for isolated land subject to flooding, which is 1/4 acre foot to an average depth of 6 inches or more in any given year, then that could be, so it's a volumetric requirement, then that could be considered jurisdictional. The tricky part is, in order to proceed with enforcement, and I'm not saying that this is the reason I wouldn't consider it, but it's a lot of work to pull all this stuff together. And I don't want to proceed with enforcement that could be considered frivolous. I don't think that's fair to anyone. So the question is, what is jurisdictional and what can the commission do about it?
I would say that I think you should ask the property owner for a site visit and see if he grants it to you. I mean, we're sort of stuck here, it seems to me. We can't get access, we want access, we have neighbors saying one thing, we can't verify what they're saying. Why don't we just ask him for permission? We already have him in here for something else. We're already speaking with him. It's not, I think we should just make the ask. If he says no, he says no, but at least we make the ask and say, can we just come and take a look at your property? Before we give you an enforcement order, and we go through all of this paperwork, let's get on your site and let's look at this first. And then that prevents all the paperwork from happening. I don't know.
I will draft a letter to Mr. Gall. Yes?
But while we're all waiting, work continues. Can a cease and desist
That's order of enforcement. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm going back 35 years. This area was a major concern to this city because we used to have mosquito spraying. And before they sprayed, we knew the nights they were coming because they would have somebody from the city and they would walk up there and they would throw tablets in this water and the kids were skating on it. And I mean, it was a concern. They have to have maps here. that showed that area. And while we're waiting for permission from him, those trucks and tractors are filling in and digging and taking out and moving, and in the meantime, people's homes with this water, you know, this...
Is this, topographically, is Highland Avenue higher or lower?
Lower.
But do you think that the work he's doing in that pond area is affecting your properties right now?
Or do you think that's the drainage from
Absolutely.
Route 10?
Oh, I think it's, like I was saying before, I think it's a cumulative. Because it's like, I thank you guys so much for coming out. It's like between our house, which is 25, and our neighbor, which is 29, there's a stream now developing. It was flat and it's 16 inches deep now. In the middle of our backyard that was flat, there's an 8-foot circle that's 14 inches deep now. And it's been dry. You know, it's just, every time it rains, the situation gets worse because the water's coming in from both sides now. And we're now, when I went to the Conservation Commission the first time, they told me not to worry about building behind the chairman of the Conservation Commission came to my home, walked into the backyard, she said, "This is deemed a wetland." The builder told me when I bought the home, "Don't worry, it's a wetland. You don't have to worry about people developing here." And here we are.
But you're on the north side of
We're on the north side, but they're building everywhere around. I was the only one that was told that because I knew to ask the right questions. Now what's happening on the other side of the street, the water is just coming down. It comes across the street and into our yard.
I just want to, Dan has...
I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. There's a woman behind you who's raising her hand to speak, and I want you to, but I want to go in somewhat order so we don't get too far off.
You said that these photos were taken over a fairly long period of time, 8 years or so. Are any of them real recent?
Yes, the ones that are more green are from 2013. The ones in the back of the packet were from 2013.
I guess what I'm wondering is if there's any sediment that's, you know, kind of crossing Highland Ave and ending up back there. I mean, so I guess my concern is that there's a violation of the stormwater management ordinance here.
I think we're close to an acre.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, you know, and this is separate from the issues of the pond and the wetlands, anything like that. If there's more than an acre of disturbance of land, any land, and it's not agricultural activity or a bunch of other things, then you need to have a permit from the city to do that.
That might be the more realistic vehicle under the stormwater ordinance.
Yeah.
Because the city engineer has gone out, I sent him out...
Wasn't there a cease and desist?
A month ago? A month and a half ago?
We were told to get a cease and desist.
Well, under a building... I've been out for a week and I wasn't in here today, so I don't know what happened in the past week since I've been out. But before I left, there was a verbal cease and desist, which I only know from Councilor Hagan. I wasn't told directly by the building inspector. Councilor Hagan came to my office and told me that there was a verbal cease and desist that was given to him. He didn't abide by it, apparently. While Joe was on vacation, the assistant building inspector went out, spoke with the property owner directly. The property owner came down and said to both myself and the assistant, and again, Joe's back, I was gone, so I don't know what's happened the past week, but that he was using it for agriculture and he was intending to hay it and he was going to be seeding in the next couple days. I then sent an email CCing Councilor Hagan saying, this is what he said, however, I think we need to keep an eye on it. So in terms of the building permit side, a verbal cease and desist doesn't help anybody. You know, it's got to be on paper in order for us to be able to do anything. So, you know, from the building permit perspective, I don't know what can be done at this point. I think that if we wanted to go under the stormwater ordinance and put a cease and desist under that, and that at least halts the activity and then gives us a reason to get out there and look to see what's going on,
Jan, can you take the lead on that, since you're the stormwater
Yeah,
ordinance guy?
I think I can do that. Jim may even have the power to do that, I don't know, but, we can do it.
I think if you could do it soon, Jim takes longer than I'd like sometimes, so,
As a side note, can we use this as an opportunity to discuss in the near future, perhaps getting a conservation agent?
you have a counselor in the room, you could ask.
Because we're all volunteers with full-time jobs.
Is there a method for me to give permission to somebody legally to come onto my property and see what happens after it rains?
You can invite us.
Yeah, you can just
Invite us, call or email.
Does an email make it, because then you have a paper trail?
You
Does that
can
make it
invite
legal?
us to your property anytime.
You have permission to come to my property anytime it rains.
All right.
But to go back, the city engineer did go out about a month and a half ago, and he did not see any evidence of erosion issues at that time, but more activities happened since then, so.
Yeah.
But he did go during a major rainstorm and look at it, and he did not find evidence of any erosion issues happening.
Yeah, I'm sure he was looking for discharges, which would give him, after the fact jurisdiction over any disturbance really, but, if there's more than an acre, then, and it sounds like it is, I mean, we can just put in the enforcement order that they should present to us what the area of disturbances and,
So for the minutes, I'm going to say, since there's more than an acre of disturbance on the land, the commission will issue a cease and desist order because of a violation of the stormwater ordinance.
Possible violation.
And again, thank you guys for coming out and looking. You at least saw my sinkhole and
Your sinkhole.
my new stream that's happening. It's scary. I mean, that's my house. And I didn't do it.
Right.
Just a point of clarification with Jessica. The email you sent me about the agriculture, I took it to say that he was now operating under the right to farm, or not under the right
That's
to
not
farm.
what I said.
Oh, that's what I...
No, the right to farm ordinance is not a zoning.
So
ordinance.
he's saying that he's farming the...
He's using it as an agricultural use under the zone.
now, or did he say he used it 5 years in the
He said
past?
it has been an agricultural use.
That part?
That he's had livestock on there, that he's leased the land to a farmer, and that he was in the process of grading, and he claimed he was going to be putting seed down that weekend. So I don't know if you saw him putting seed down, but I said, you better have the best damn hay in town.
I mean, again, just to clarify for the board, that when you said about agricultural use, the front, he's back probably 1,500 feet now. There was a horse operation on the first 800 from Northampton Street back. The pond is beyond that. And I know at one time they did hay where those horses were, before the horses were there, when the horses have been there a long time, but they did used to hay that.
And he claimed
that front part, but in my opinion, you'd have to ask the neighbors further down. I never remember them baling hay down below.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a long enough history in town, but he also mentioned that that pond was actually created as a livestock pond to water the livestock, and that's when he didn't create it, but that's what it was initially designed as, and that's why it has the clay tiles at the bottom, and that's why it has a drainage system, and that's what its function was to be at some point.
And to be perfectly clear, when I'm talking about an agricultural exemption or a definition of land and agricultural use, I am strictly speaking about the Wetlands Protection Act. I'm not talking about any other provision in the city, state, whatever. I'm keeping that a very narrow focus.
And agriculture is defined specifically in the Mass General laws, so that's what the zoning uses, is the agricultural definition that you find under the Mass General laws as the definition of agriculture, which is the same definition which is used in the right to farm ordinances. But those right to farm ordinances they don't hold any teeth at all. All it is saying, we're a community that accepts farming. We will find some way to notify people coming into town that this is a farming community, to sort of address the nuisance issues before they actually hit. It has no teeth whatsoever. It's kind of a fluff ordinance, really, in a lot of ways, just so you know.
Right.
Okay.
Well, so you'll see an email then, because that's what I thought it was after. So.
Okay.
Does the definition of agriculture that you just mentioned, does that have any relation to the Wetlands Protection Act definition?
I don't know. I'd have to go and look to see what the WPA definition of agriculture is and see if it's consistent with the state definition.
The Stormwater Management Ordinance refers back to the Wetlands Protection Act definition.
Actually, the woman of that
I'm Valerie Wendelowski. We live next to Sue and Matt, my husband Mark and I, and this body of water that's forming over the past few years in between our houses is only feet from the street, but it is actually working its way to our house and is not that many feet away. We have a raised ranch. Our basement is refinished, carpeting, furniture, and the closer that gets to my house, the more worried I am that the water's gonna come piling on in. So I wanted to say, any one of your committee is welcome as well to come on our property.
And you're at what number?
29 Highland.
29, okay. Thank you.
Just one, I know you, and you realize this because I know that the way you did it, there's really two distinctions here, and I think the harder one to rectify is actually on the south side. I think the north side, at least these two homeowners are more than willing to have you come and obviously have provided you pictures, and I think theirs is a very, that's an active, a much more active water situation than the south side. The south side is more of the filling of swales and that's...
When we went, it was very dry, so there wasn't a lot we could see from those backyards.
But you saw where the sinkhole is and where the stream is
forming. In between the two houses where that little pond is forming.
Yeah, and thank you again for coming out, because we're just, now we're worried.
Right. Yes, sir.
A technical question.
Okay.
Is a street on paper an access site that you guys can use in order to...
A paper street? If it's the city's paper street...
If we've accepted it as a public way.
Yes,
but if it's just on paper and not accepted as a public way, I don't think
then it's not a public way.
Okay.
Thank you.
But thank you for thinking of it.
Thanks for listening to us. We're to the point where we're scared. That's all it comes down to.
Within the past year, Huntley Associates, I believe it's Huntley Associates, it's in Southampton, they do surveying. They were on the street, and there is a right-of-way right next to Sue's property, and they were surveying, and I went out, and the man immediately said to me, I said to him, may I ask you a question? He said, I know what you're going to ask me. And he had just placed a tag into that property, which was behind their property, and he said, you want to know, can they build on here? He said, never. He said, that is a wet area, it's wetlands, and he said, they can never build on there. He said, no way. And this was a surveyor.
Well, surveyors, while they may not be wetland scientists, they see a lot of...
Yeah.
Let me see if it's on the state later. There is on the north side, so here's Highland Ave.
Yep.
These are not boundaries we would ever base anything off of, but it's a fairly strong indicator that there is a freshwater forested wetland known at this federal and state level, north behind your parcels.
Skunk, cabbage, and cattails.
I believe it. Okay, so
thank you.
Thank you all for coming in. I know this is all your time too. So I've got some follow-up items. You've got a follow-up item to draft that with stormwater ordinance. Please,
Right.
and thank you.
Yeah,
Do we have some rain coming tomorrow?
Maybe tonight.
Maybe tonight.
But I don't know how heavy.
When I get in the office first thing, I can just see if Jim Gracia would be willing to take another run out. For me to do that? Would that be helpful?
That would be helpful. It wouldn't hurt. That's for sure.
Do you guys have an eyeball sense for the disturbed area, length width?
Could you sketch it on here? Could anyone sketch the area of disturbance on here?
I'd like to go back and look at a better photo than this.
You mean on the north side?
No, I mean on the south side, where...
The size of this room, around.
no, I'm sorry. The land disturbance.
Yeah.
Like if you were to say, roughly from here to here, here to here.
I think he's over into here.
Yeah, I think so too.
And down into here.
You can pull into the McDonald's parking lot and look east, and you can see almost the complete parcel.
It wraps around
this building here.
He's on both sides of this tree line.
Right, he permitted that.
Can you draw a line?
Yeah.
Which is what you might be able to see from McDonald's.
Couple of markers here. That'll wipe right off.
But we might be able to see recent land disturbance too.
I don't know how far over he is here. How far? You can't really see
You
it.
can't really tell, but, I mean, I think it's anything that wasn't mowed is being disturbed. I don't think he's taking trees out.
Do we have to issue, do we have to approve a motion? I mean, are we just saying that we're gonna issue a cease and desist order based on this violation, possible violations generally?
If it was collective?
I don't care.
That's a rough estimate from,
Okay.
from what I can see from Route 10.
It's a pretty gigantic area.
It is.
So let me yeah, that's more than 40,000, 42,000. Because just this area here would roughly be almost an acre.
Am I close in that? That's
Yeah,
what I can see from.
yes, I would say that's very close. It's pretty much all the way from the road. I mean, he does go right to here, to this roadway, the one between.
Yeah, and I've seen it on both sides of that tree
He pitched it
line.
quite a bit from like where Road 6 is down to here, you can see it. So, and it does go back, I mean, he's down back. But that's very, as far as, I haven't been out there, I've never been on it, you know, since he started, I didn't stress that. But that's really close.
Okay. All right, so do you want to? Your call.
All right, I'll move that we issue a enforcement order and cease and desist order under the stormwater management ordinance for the property at, doing that property.
125 to 133? Is that the actual address?
Some of those parcels don't actually have street addresses, so
Okay.
you might want to go with the parcel IDs rather than the street addresses.
I don't have
Which
enough
Melissa,
numbers.
oh, okay, we have them.
We do have them, but
Right.
the...
I don't know,
parcels
have
under
we figured
discussion.
it out already?
Can you send it to me tomorrow?
Yes, yes.
All properties.
All property south of Highland Ave.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So we will be doing that. I'll be answering those other questions, and we will continue the discussion to our September 9th meeting.
So we actually just issued a enforcement order and a cease and desist order? That was.
Under the stormwater...
Well, I guess it's called a stop work order under here.
Okay. So with that, compliance updates.
I need a
We
minute.
need a minute.
Stop work order. Okay. All right. So, Easthampton fish ladder. We did receive a, status update, for the past 3 weeks. I sent it all to you, I believe. Or no, you will get it from, David Gonzalez, Gonzalez.
I don't think I got it.
You don't think you did? Okay. No, I have a read. It's gonna be quick. So basically, yeah, there's some work going on in the dam to do all the excavation, not the excavation, but the removal of the dam they need to do to patch the fish ladder in, and that's gonna finish up this week. So that puts them in compliance with the conditions.
Okay. Fall Street Extension, Julian Estates.
Yeah, so I lost the bottom 10 feet of my driveway because of that project, but I don't think it really biases me for or against the project.
Because it's being mitigated?
Because it's being mitigated, so I'm going to continue to stay involved, I think, unless anyone objects.
I have no objection.
Okay.
I think you're fairly good at determining whether or not you're biased or not.
And they did submit their weekly reports for the past 2 weeks, so they're in compliance as well.
Easthampton Savings Bank parking lot.
Yes, I stopped in there today, and at the end of the project area where they're building the end of the fallout, there was some standing water, and it also said it has some flow to it, right along the straw wattles. That wasn't there when we did the original site visit.
Is that photo documented at all in their weekly reports?
Right there, along that.
Does it show up in those photos, or you're just kind of...
It does not show up in those photos, but
So would you be willing to send Mark Reed of Heritage as the compliance monitor? So would you be willing to send him an email saying...
yeah, I'll send a moto.
A copy of the commission's email for the commission and Jessica, please.
So you said it was standing water that appeared to have been moving at some point?
Oh, it has flow to it, like a channel, and the straw wattles were kind of overrun with soil.
So it sounds like they need to
clean up the area.
Maintain their erosion and sedimentation controls as well as address this
Yes.
drainage, potential drainage.
Potential drainage issue.
Okay. So you could do that the next day or two,
Yep.
especially if you're getting rain tonight. Is that something you could stop by again on your, after you send the email? Just say, if it rains overnight significantly, is that something you could stop by on your way home and
You can
follow
stop
up
by
on?
too, because I'm going by there 3 times a day anyways.
Really?
Detour.
Yeah, that's why it's pretty convenient for me as well.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that would be then. All right, so Pleasant Street Mills?
I was not able to get there tonight just
Okay.
because of the other site
Just the
visit.
other
Yeah, just running behind.
And
so
also,
I'll
just
go
to
for
sort
it.
of clarify, we don't, the city is not doing anything there technically yet, because we have not put out bid documents.
This is the mill owners.
This is the mill owners
Yes.
themselves, so I just wanted to make sure
So
that
mill
was
owners
clear.
are actually clearing the site?
I don't know what they're doing, and again, if I was in today, I probably would have emailed
Yeah,
out.
I'll go
and
tomorrow.
Mill 180 and figured out what's going on, but, which I can certainly do tomorrow, and if I find out any information, I'll let you know.
I ran past on the bike path yesterday, and there was like a... It's a fast pace. Yeah, it was not fast at the time. This is just an exaggeration for the posterity. But there was like a 10 or 15 foot clear section on the downslope of the bike path where it was all bare soil. It looked like it had been recently excavated, and I just kind of was like, that's weird. But now...
Do you know anything about that?
No, that's what I'm saying. This is...
Is it within the project?
What, can you tell me which mill?
I have no idea.
Can you give me a,
I was like,
what? So
I was
what
questioning
end?
a kid.
Mill 180? Paragon? Not East
I think it's impossible to tell when you're not
Yeah.
familiar.
It was...
Yeah, I wouldn't even know.
You are familiar.
I know, that's pretty impressive actually.
I mean, it was before you get to the Lower Mill Pond Park.
Before you got to Lower Mill?
Yeah, so it's where it's kind of wooded. It's pretty
Oh, you're
wooded
going
on the...
that way.
Like I'm going towards
I thought
Northampton.
you were going this
It's
way.
wooded on the left,
Okay.
and it's down to the pond on the right, and it's
Alright.
down on the pond side.
On the
I think
pond
there was
side.
like looked like there's Princeton.
So what's the action? Are you gonna follow up?
I'll follow up. I'll look into it tomorrow.
I could have been delirious. I'm just gonna say.
I think we're all getting to that point.
Yeah.
I'll check into it tomorrow.
Okay. All right, next item, meeting minutes approval, August 12th, 2013.
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from August 12th, 2013.
All those in favor? So moved. Just as an FYI, Mr. Tufts
Yes.
from the Garden Committee stopped by before the meeting started and requested that the Garden Committee be placed on the September 9th meeting agenda to just kind of revisit, I think maybe make sure everyone's on the same page about budgets and accounts.
And I sent you a memo months ago.
Yes, you did, and he mentioned it.
Okay, so if you need me to resend it?
I think I need you to resend it.
Okay.
And he also said he wanted to talk about some CPA project ideas. And I mentioned that it would be useful if we understood.
He's going to give me a little write-up of what they're discussing, and then
And so that we can make sure
it
it
falls under...
works with what the land is,
That's
the
correct.
stipulations on the land.
Was he going to attend the September 5th meeting, did he say?
He didn't say that.
Okay.
But
That's what I
thought we were going to try to get something before that, so we could just...
Oh, even before that,
Just so we
okay.
could look at it and make it a quick judgment whether it would even fall under CPA funding.
I think he's trying to expand garden plots and put in a composting toilet, is my understanding.
Yes.
So I think the composting toilet is the one that we really need to make sure is okay
Yes.
before too much effort's put
And we need
into
to
it.
make sure that it's gonna meet, we got state money to purchase that property, so we don't run it.
That's the,
Okay.
This is at the garden,
Kennedy
site,
Garden.
putting and increase the square footage of the
I
plots?
think they
or
want to
more
add
plots?
12 more plots, I think is
Yeah,
what
we
they were
have-
talking about, and then a composting toilet.
It's up to row E. You want to go for row E, and it's inside of the buffer zone,
okay, so they would need to.
or outside of the buffer zone.
Oh, then they would need to.
Is it actually growing that much to need more plots?
That'd be great, I think so.
The lower plots, or people prefer the higher ground, so we're trying to get more people to more ideal areas.
Okay.
Anything else?
Mr. Hagan, the last meeting, was asking about some little handout or something on the website for quick descriptions, so I just was looking online.
The finger pointing begins.
That's the same one, right? That you
It's
sent?
probably-
That's the minor exempt activities and buffer zone.
It just describes what you can't and can't
Is it on
do.
the website?
I don't know if it's on our
I don't know
website.
if we discussed putting it on the website. Did we discuss putting it on the
Is it
website?
just a link?
I don't think so. I think we just sort of looked at it and
It's
went,
from a couple different cities, have this identical thing that was put together by someone.
The only thing that I would want to do is kind of block out, literally block out the outdated contact information.
Well, that's what it is. That's what, that's what I was just saying. I'm not saying we're gonna
Yep.
copy it and
No,
use
no, I
it.
mean, this
We
is
looked at that, and there was
DEP's
a-
document.
there was
So
another
it'd
one
be
too
something-
that we looked at that was way too complicated for the general public.
Can
This
we
is 2
contact EP
pages.
and ask if we can use it though? I don't want to copyright any.
No, yeah, I'm not saying steal it. I'm just saying that's just an example of something.
Thanks.
It's DEP's, it's for
Yeah.
general consumption. I would think so, yeah, that's.
I think they would want,
If they're using state money or federal money to develop fact sheets, it's for public.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
there's no restrictions on that.
so I can email you the actual.
Plagiarize it, not feel bad.
I'll put you as contact numbers.
All right.
I sent you something. What did I send you?
I think it was that.
Was it that?
Okay, so it looks
I
familiar.
have a copy of
It
that.
was like 2 weeks ago. Okay, I sent that to everybody. Rob.
Copy, Jamie?
Yeah, it's a copy.
Great, we appreciate that.
Okay, we're done. Are we done?
Is there anything else to come before the commission?
Are we finished too? Okay. Is there a motion to close?
I appreciate you guys. I know it's a volunteer. I was on the pond committee for 20 years. I know this is not easy. I just want you to know that I appreciate you guys being here and at least
Our pleasure.
doing something.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys coming out.
Yes, appreciate you guys attending.
I mean, you know, it doesn't do anybody any good
Craziness.
if we, it doesn't do the town any good, it doesn't do the environment any good if we come after the fact. You know, that's why people don't understand how important a Concom is.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.